Every so often, it seems like certain music production techniques get their moment in the spotlight. And recently, over the last few years, I've found that granular synthesis has increased extremely high in popularity. It seems like almost every software company is putting out a granular plugin, many different pedal companies are trying to take a crack at making the ultimate granular pedal, and the world of Eurorack is full of manufacturers making granular modules. But what actually is granular synthesis and how can you use it in your music besides just making a 6-hour ambient drone, which I obviously like to do as much as everyone else? Well, today, hopefully we're going to be able to answer that. Granular synthesis is a sound synthesis technique that involves breaking down an audio sample into tiny grains and then manipulating these grains to create new sounds. These grains can be as small as a few milliseconds in length, and by manipulating them in various ways, such as adjusting their pitch, volume, or duration, entirely new sounds can be created. Imagine taking a photograph and zooming in on a very small part of it. Well, granular synthesis is like taking that small zoomed in section of the picture and using it as the basis for an entirely new image. For example, take this picture of Ruffles the cat wearing his favorite festive costume. Now imagine you zoom in, you grab small parts of the picture, you rearrange, you multiply, and then move them around with modulation. Granular synthesis works just like this by taking small grains of sound and manipulating them, reversing them, modulating them, pitching them, you name it, all to create a brand new and completely unexpected sound from your original material. Today, we're going to look at two forms of granular synthesis and how to actually use them in a song as well. We're going to look at my favorite granular guitar pedal, the Red Panda Particle V2, which is actually the follow-up to the first ever granular guitar pedal ever made, and is still to this day, in my opinion, one of the best possible granular pedals you can get. We're also going to look at using granular synthesis as an oscillator source, and for that, we're going to use Logic's Alchemy, but if you don't have Logic, you can follow along using any granular synth that allows you to use an oscillator type as granular. One more thing before we get started, thank you so much for watching, and thank you to Red Panda for sending over the particle ages ago. I've been really enjoying it ever since I got it, and I'm really happy to feature it in this video that I've been wanting to make for a while on granular. Alright, so we're actually going to look at using granular synthesis as an oscillator in Logic's Alchemy first, because the terms we're going to learn will help us understand granular synthesis better when we're using the particle pedal in a few minutes. So here's the sample we're going to use for the educational part of this video. As you can hear, it's a very beautiful but simple piano part that I've played in, and we're going to use that for both the pedal and Alchemy so you can understand what's going on. So we've loaded in our sample as a sampler. We play different keys, we pitch it around, all that normal stuff. Where the magic happens is when we switch to granular mode for the oscillator source. All of a sudden, our sound is completely transformed. Now the most important controls are the ones I'm clicking right here too. The size determines the duration of the grains. I can switch the grain type here, so you can see different size slices and different shape slices will really impact the sound that you have. If you make your grain size so small, it turns into noise, or so long, it almost sounds like the original sample. Density is going to decide how many grains we have, and we can offset those grains, add more, or have them perfectly on pitch. We can determine how fast we play through our sample, because remember, we're not actually playing the sample properly. We're playing little individual grains of the sample. So you can go as slow or as fast as you like. Now, where it gets really special here is if we turn off the speed to 0. That essentially freezes the sample in place. So we can play it wherever we want, and each tiny sliver is being played over and over again, like zooming in on a photograph and staying right there. This allows us to scan through our sample and really find some beautiful pockets of sound. This is where granular synthesis is pretty unparalleled for creating drones and pads. On some granular synths, we can control the number of taps and control their spacing, which will basically restart the attack of the grains across the entire sample. This is a bit more complex, and not every granular synthesizer will have this feature, but it's nice on Alchemy. But this type of granular synthesis is all about finding little pockets. See, I like this sound a lot right here. It's a clear note, but it's very special sounding. It'll work great for plucks and a keyboard. So let's turn that into a pluck and save that for later. That is a very unique sounding pluck that would only be possible with granular synthesis. Alright, so now that we understand how to use granular synthesis as an oscillator type inside Alchemy and we know the basic terms, let's jump over to the Red Panda Particle V2 pedal and see my favorite way how to use granular, which is actually as a real-time effect, modifying incoming audio with granular delay. So this time we've got our same audio, but it's playing in real time because remember, now we're not using it as an oscillator. We've turned on our pedal and we're modifying incoming audio in real time. So we can chop it up, which functions like the size button of the grains, and we can pitch up our audio and modify each of the grains to make them higher or nice and low. One of my favorite sounds is a high-pitched granular delay. We can also stereo spread each of the grains across the image, which can turn a mono signal into something really wild and binaural like this. Here I've frozen the actual sound so we can get little snapshots, much like we did in Alchemy when we turned off the speed of the playhead. Now with granular, the most unique thing about granular delay is the feedback parameter, because remember, this is a real-time effect rather than what we looked at before. So by adding feedback into the circuit, all of a sudden, the pitch is cascading upwards. Or downwards. And all of the parameters are feeding back into one another. It's a really cool effect, and I would definitely urge you to experiment with it in your music. With the particle, we have a whole bunch of different algorithms which will focus in on different ways to interact with the grains. Reverse is one of my favorites. We can add pitching to any of these different algorithms, even if they're not on the front panel, with Red Panda's handy app. Pitched granular delay is already one of my favorite sounds, and with reverse and freeze, it's just perfection. These kind of textures are absolutely perfect for starting songs, using over top of pads, behind vocals, you name it. Let's check out another mode here, density. This is going to be very similar to what we looked at in Alchemy, where our chop will control the size of the grains and our parameter knob will control the density of the grains. This is probably the most classic granular mode, and it's the easiest one to get great results with if you're looking to create background textures that flutter around the stereo image and sit behind any mix. After a few minutes of messing around, here's what I got. This would be perfect to start a song with. Alright, as much as I could probably play with that pedal all day, let's go ahead and finish off the video with a song that uses what we've learned today. So while you're listening to this demo song, keep an eye out for the different concepts we looked at. The textures were made using the particle and also a couple in Alchemy. The synth plucks are going to be processed through the granular engine in the particle to really fill out the sound. They're completely dry otherwise. Same deal with the piano. And my favorite personal thing is the plucks that you hear in the song are actually made using that exact same technique from that same patch in Alchemy. So as always, I really hope you enjoy. Thank you so much for watching. If you did, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.